Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anne. I'm back again for another video. Apologies for not filming a video in like forever. My friends definitely got on my butt for that, but I don't really have an excuse. I guess I'm just an L YouTuber, I don't know. But anyway, I decided that for today's video, I wanted to do something like writing related because I feel like all my videos have been about reading. So I decided that I'd switch it up since I originally created this channel to talk about my writing because I had a writing Instagram and I wanted to like make videos about my writing stuff. I've yet to do one video on writing, so I decided that today was the day. So today I will be doing a video on things that I wish I'd done differently with my first draft because I just finished writing my first draft. My project is called Project Teacot. You can find out more about it on my Instagram. I mainly just do like little reels about it. I plan to do like a video going in depth about my story, so I'm not going to be giving like an explanation necessarily of what it's about, but I'm more so just going to be talking about like in this video what I wish I'd done differently and kind of like use this as like a little video of like tips of what not to do and what to do while you're writing your first draft. So if you see me looking down, I have a little piece of paper to keep me organized. First thing that I wish I'd done differently is to do more outlining / plotting. So when I originally started working on Project Teacot, I had started writing the first draft and I didn't really have any like kind of plot. Like no outlining, no plotting or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to write. I wasn't patient enough to put in the work to do like outlining, world building, like doing stuff like character arcs. Like I just didn't really care about that. I was like, I'll fix it later. Don't ever do that, ever. If it's the only thing you do, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. If it's literally the only thing you take away from this video, don't do that, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you have to be like a super rigid plotter. It's totally okay to do some pantsing. In fact, what I like to do is a mix of plotting and pantsing, which is plantsing. So I have an outline, but you know, if I decide that I want to add something, if I have like a cool idea, you know, I'm going to add it. I'm not going to be like, I can't add it because I didn't plot it yet. So that's kind of what I do, but I literally did no plotting. Okay, so I did no plotting. I got about 20,000 words in and I realized that because I was not plotting, there were so many plot holes just building on top of each other and nothing was working. I had no idea what I was going to do for the middle of the story. I just knew what I was going to be doing for the beginning and the end, but I had no idea what I was going to be doing for the middle. So I ended up stopping and I basically just sat and I thought for like 3 years, which is why it's taken me 4 years so far to even get to the first draft. So I ended up having to scrap that draft. I got 20,000 words and ended up having to scrap it and totally redo the first draft. But even doing the first draft over again, I definitely feel like I should have done more like outlining, at least for like world building and character arcs. World building has just been such a struggle and I just honestly didn't want to do it. So I just was like, you know what, it's fine, I'll figure it out later. You'd think I would have learned the first time, but apparently I didn't. So my first draft is a hot mess. I definitely would have done more outlining. I think that definitely would have made it a little easier. All right, the second thing that I wish I'd done differently, not comparing my drafts to other books. So when I originally started writing the redo of the first draft, I like to call the other one draft 0, even though I know a lot of people use draft 0 to describe like their outlines, but I just use draft 0 to describe my first ever draft that I had to scrap. But when I was doing draft 1, I had started writing and I went through so many, like this phase throughout the entire book of comparing my book to other books. Like I would read a book and then I'd sit down to write and be like, my writing's just like nowhere near as good as this book. Is it even worth it to continue writing? You know, if it's never gonna look like this book. But like, you have to remember, this is your first draft. Okay, you're comparing your first draft to somebody's final, finished, polished novel. You know, obviously your first draft's gonna be a mess. It's not gonna be perfect. You don't have to be perfect with the first draft. The first draft is an opportunity for you to just write a whole bunch of stuff that probably doesn't even make any sense. You know, in the second and third draft, and you know, in other drafts further, if you feel like you need to do more drafts, then you will be able to fix that stuff up. You don't have to worry about stuff like line edits and like prose and how, you know, dialogue, if it's cringy or not, if it flows, because all you really need to do in the first draft is just write a story. Just write a story. It doesn't even have to be a cohesive story because God knows mine is not cohesive. Just a story. And then in the second and third drafts, then you can worry about like making sure it flows, making sure the dialogue's good, making sure, you know, the prose sounds good, making sure you're describing things well. And it's really hard, I understand, to like get out of that perfectionistic frame of thought, because, you know, I'm a perfectionist in most things that I do, not just writing. Just that reminder that this is the first draft and it can only get better from here has definitely helped me, because there have been periods where I was so unmotivated to write because I felt so bad about my writing that I just didn't write, because I was like, it's not perfect enough. But then I sat down and I was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to get the words out on the page, and later I can worry about perfecting it. So, and then the next thing that I wish I'd done differently is didn't write based off pure motivation and kind of like developed a writing routine. You know, obviously there's going to be times where you don't have time to write, you know, like I'm a student, so it's, you know, obviously there's things that are more important than writing, but I definitely wish that I had set aside time every day for writing, even if it was like a little bit, like even if I only got like 20 words on the page, just something would be better than nothing, because I would only really write when I had like the motivation to. If I didn't feel like writing, I didn't write. And I understand that, like, you know, you shouldn't force yourself to do something that you don't want to do. Sometimes it'd be like an entire month where I didn't feel like writing, and you know, if I want to get this book done, I can't just sit and not write for an entire month. So I definitely would have just like set aside like at least maybe 30 minutes just to write. It doesn't have to be like a super, like it doesn't have to be like Stephen King type writing routine where you get up super early and you write all day long. Just like a little bit of time each day. Even if you don't write your book, even if you're writing, doing like a writing exercise, I think that's better than nothing. So I definitely would have kind of tried to form a writing routine so that I wouldn't just let my motivations to write dictate when I wrote. Okay, so the last thing that I wish I'd done differently is not worry about the word count. So the way that I plot is by using the Save the Cat beat sheet, and more specifically the one from Save the Cat Writes a Novel. That's the book that I have, and I definitely recommend that. When you're doing this, you kind of have to have an idea of how many words you want your story to be. So I just set the goal of usually like what most fantasy books have, most fantasy romantic books like that have around 100,000 words. So I set that goal, and I think that I definitely got way too caught up in reaching that goal, especially like in the first draft. See, I'm an underwriter, and you can definitely see that in my writing. I definitely have a lot of like white room syndrome, I think it's called, where it's just like these two characters, they're more like floating heads just like talking in a white room. Like I just always forget to like describe and put a lot of imagery in my books and in my writing, and I definitely think that's something that I struggle with. So I definitely kind of wanted to be like total opposite. I wanted to write a bunch of words, so I was so focused on hitting the word count for each section of my outline that it just ended up being like such a waste of time and being something that's so overly tedious. When, you know, when I say that when people say they're editing their first drafts, they don't mean that they're like going in and deleting sentences and adding them. Like, editing your first draft means like writing a whole new draft. Like, you're not just going to edit, you're going to actually rewrite everything from scratch on draft 2. So there was really no point in me trying to hit word counts, and so I definitely feel like that slowed me down. And I think I added a lot of like unimportant stuff to my novel just because I wanted to hit the word count. You know, have a frame of reference of how many words you want your book to be if you're plotting, but don't focus too much on that, especially in the first draft, because, you know, you can always take away, you can always add, like, you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. All right, well, that is basically all I can think of right now for what I wish I'd done differently. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope these tips were, you know, at least a little bit helpful. And yeah, I definitely want to do more writing related videos, so if you have any ideas for that, definitely put that in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.